realized over my past 15 years of teaching is that students hate story problems. Okay? The reason why I think students hate story problems, I literally am watching play out in my daughter's schooling. Because you get one story problem every unit that you learn, and your teacher tells you to underline the important information, circle the question, and if you don't know what equation to write, the teacher says, well, did you read it? And you say, well, yes, I read it. And they say, well, then read it again. And you say, okay, I read it again. And they said, okay, so now what do you do? Well, I don't know any different than I do when I read it the first time, or the 100th time, right? And so we want to go through, and instead of just throwing a story problem at you once per unit and hoping for the best, we're going to actually go through this unit and we're going to actually talk about how we can apply our algebra skills to story problems. Right? Not just, hey, be creative, think about something, try something, but what are the processes and structures that we already know in place that can help us be better problem solvers? All right, and we're going to focus on it as a unit so that we are taking some dedicated time to focus on just this. Now, here's the good news. We are not going to take a test over story problems, because in the real world, there will not be a test over story problems. But instead, if you're given a problem, for example, my daughter's bedroom wall has a bunch of squares on it that are in like different locations. I wanted to make sure I could make that square the right shape so it would fit equally across the wall, both length and width. Okay, and I could stagger it, so I had to do some problem solving. There was no time limit. It wasn't, oh, here's 60 minutes, figure out an answer. Okay, but if you needed to, you could Google, you could look up notes, you could do something to try and help you remember. So you will have a open notes test, assessment, quest, I don't know which one to call it, at the end of this unit that will pull from all of the different problems we have done. I am asking you to, every time you feel frustrated, take a deep breath and to give Mrs. McKinney a chance, because I realize you probably have had a lot of moments that you've been burned about story problems that have just felt frustrating, like why ask? The teacher's just gonna say read it again, or like say read it again louder, right? How many of you have had that, right? You feel like your teacher's just yelling at you louder to read it again, and you're like, that doesn't mean anything different. Give me a chance, okay? That's the deal. Give me a chance and we'll see where it goes. So here's how we're gonna start today. Today we're gonna start with some basic terms. So I'm gonna put these things up here, and we are gonna start brainstorming some words that represent each of those different things. You do not need to write these down right now. Okay, so if we look up here at this first, the board is off again. If we look up here at this first thing, I don't want to say any words because I don't want to give anything away. What are some words that we say represent that thing? Some. Keep going. What else do we got?
Addition.
Addition and add. Oh, count as the same. What else? Yes, but not in terms of an operation. Definitely have more words. We learned another word than this just the first week of school.
I want to say combined, but is that for something else?
I mean combine. If we're combining things, we'd be adding. We're going to talk about that separate from today, but we'll put it up here.
I feel like I know.
It starts with an M.
I know this word. Starts with an M. What does it end with?
Well, it's two. Yeah, there it is. More than. Now, I always kind of laugh about this because there's no way I could make a list for forever, because if I say more than, I could also say larger than, and then I could also say more ginormous than, huger than, what's another adjective that means larger, right? I could put any adjective up there that means larger, okay? So any of those count. Are we okay with those terms? We agree those mean to add? Okay, how about the next one?
Less than.
Difference.
Minus.
Fewer than, tinier than, more minuscule than, take away, taken away. We agree? How about the next term? Multiplication, multiply.
Yeah, that's
There's one more 2-letter word. Hmm? You know it?
Well, don't tell me, I want to figure it out.
What does it start with?
O.
Of.
Right? Half of a number. There are also times that we don't see an operation at all, like twice a number. That tells us to multiply. Okay, how about this symbol?
Division.
Divide, division,
Quotient.
quotient. I mean, division's pretty lame. That's what division gets. Right? That's about it. It's lonely. How about the last one?
Equals. Wait. Could it be like sum, difference, product, and product?
Because those are the answer to it.
Yeah.
You have a good idea. That comes later in the week, so let's just hold on to that for a moment. There's one more 2-letter word that should be up here.
Two.
So equal or equal to, but there's a different one that's all by itself a 2-letter word.
Oh.
Is tells us equals. Do we agree with those? Okay, so what I'm passing out to you right now is, ooh, I'm throwing the paper at you. I'm not even passing it. Is there 2 there?
Yeah.
Here.
So,
What I'm passing out to you right now is sort of what we just did. There's a couple other things on here, but there's a table at the bottom that has the things that we just talked about in it. The reason why I wanted to brainstorm them is because I want you to recognize that you know these. These are words that you hear. These are words that make sense to us. These are not new terms. Okay, in fact, some of these we talked about like the very first week. Pull this up so we can see the same thing. Okay, in addition to the things that we just talked about, there are some other things that we should know. A number. If we read something that's talking about a number, that says we don't know the value of the number and therefore we are going to write it as a variable. You are at liberty to choose whichever variable is your favorite variable. Okay, which means if you have felt sad for Q your entire life because it doesn't get used enough, now is the time that you can choose Q. Okay, you might also read something that says the same number. Okay, that is telling us to use the variable again. So whatever letter we picked originally is the same letter we should be picking again. Okay, the phrase is, we said is the equal sign, so we're good there. Here's a tricky one. The quantity. Okay, if we read the words the quantity, followed by a description of some numbers, some variables, operations, it can sort of have whatever, that indicates that we need to group those things together. Okay, we group things together with parentheses. But remember, there are sometimes that parentheses are assumed, which means something like this, right? We wouldn't need to write the parentheses, but there would be parentheses here. I always tell my students, if you don't know, the better guess is to put the parentheses. We also need to use parentheses if we read 2 operations next to each other. say something like 2 times the quantity, right? 2 times the quantity is telling me to put parentheses. But if I also read something that says 2 times the sum, right? I read times and sum right next to each other. 2 operations next to each other are telling us that something needs to be grouped. This is a big one. This is one that's typically new to my students. Now, this one down here is not new. We specifically hit on it at the very beginning of the year for the exact purpose that it is where students struggle the most here. Okay, when we are translating a word problem into an equation or an expression, we read it in the order that it is, right? Whatever we see, we write it in that order. The only time it's different is if we read the word than. Whether it's more than, whether it's less than. Okay, the one that we have to really hit on though is less than, because less than is the one where it matters. Does the order of addition matter? No, so we'll still get the correct answer even if we don't switch order with addition. But with less than, we are going to have to switch the order, and we talked about that week 1, so that's going to come up again. I so struggle with saying this one. Subtracted from tells us to change the order as well. However, don't overthink subtracted from, because subtracted from is the one my students tend to intuitively do correctly. If I say 2 subtracted from 10, my students write down 10 minus 2. So don't overthink that one. Typically, my students know to flip the order with subtracted from, because I mean, when you're subtracting from something, right, you need a number in front of it. And that one tends to happen more naturally. So don't question yourself and write it down and then flip it back to the wrong way. Okay, so we have these things that we know. We have a table of all of these terms that we know, right? See this table? It has all the words in here. So more than, increased by, larger than, added to, more ginormous than, right? All of those definitions fit add. There's no way I could possibly write those all in. And here's where we are all going to take a deep breath. I really think it is an ingrained reaction that we have learned. We have learned to hate story problems because most of us have not been taught to solve story problems. So I have to work to try and reprogram your brain. I'm trying to reprogram your brain. So no freaking out. My suggestion is to, yes, of course, first read the problem. However, there is rarely a time in math class that you want to look at an entire problem. That is too much info. My brain can't look at all 50 words at once. So instead, we want to look at it a chunk at a time. So if we say something that says the sum of a number in 67 is negative 34, and we want to write this as a math expression or equation, think about this like a foreign language. How many of you are taking a foreign language right now? If you see a sentence and you want to translate it, do you just like read the sentence and know the whole thing?
Yes.
Or do you look, well, yes, you don't count. Or do you know it a word at a time? Right? You sort of look at a word and then you translate it. And then you look at a word and then you translate it, right? That's what we want to do here. It's just like a foreign language. So we're going to start going a chunk at a time. The sum. Oh, there's a word I should know. What does sum tell me to write down?
Addition.
Addition. So I'm going to write addition. Of a number. Now here, be careful because my students go, oh, there's the word of. Of meant multiplication, but would we agree that of is also just a common sentence structure word? So be careful and make sure you're actually thinking about context. So the sum of a number. What do we write for a number? X, N, Q, whatever. I'm going to pick X. X is my friend. And 67. What are we going to put for and 67? 67. I mean, right? This isn't rocket science there. New color. Is What are we writing for is? Equals. Negative 34. We're just writing negative 34. Don't look at the entire thing. One small chunk at a time. Are we okay on that one? So far, so good? Number 2. 8 times a number is 216. What is the number? So here we go. Small piece at a time. 8. What are we writing? 8. Brilliant. Times. Okay, so I always tell my students that when you read times, hold it in your head. Anytime you're thinking multiplication, hold on to it in your head, because how do we write a multiplication symbol? An X, a dot, parentheses, right next to each other, so we have to pick from 4. So let's see what the next piece is to decide how we want to represent that multiplication for this problem. A number. What are we going to write for a number? An X and whatever. How do I write a multiplication symbol between a number and a variable? How about just set them next to each other? Because yes, we could use a dot. Yes, we could put parentheses. Yes, we could put the X, but really that's not how we were used to seeing it. And we don't want to confuse ourselves anymore because holy cow, we're already dealing with word problems and those aren't our favorite. Is, what are we writing for is? 216 is 216. What is the number? What does it mean if it says what is the number? The answer, solve it. Figure out what n is. So how do we solve this? We divide by n because we undo multiplication with division. So 216, 5. 27? Anybody check my math? Make sure we agree. We're good? Are we okay on that one? How we doing? So far, so good? Number 3. Here's where I start to get students who just flip the page because there's lots of words. 5 less than a number is the product of 2 times the same number decreased by 25. What is the number? So small chunk at a time. Super small chunk at a time. 5. What are we writing down? Less than. And where do I want to put that subtraction sign? In front of the 5, because less than tells me to subtract and change the order. A number. What am I going to put for a number? A variable. Is, what am I, equals, right? And I see some of you doing this, which is fine. Flip your paper over, go down the list, see what it is. The product of, what do we do for the product of? Multiplication. So remember, whenever we read multiplication, we're going to hold it in our head and see what type of multiplication we want to use. Of 2 times the same number. 2 times the same number. How are we going to do 2 times the same number? 2 times x. The same number tells us to put the same variable. What way do I want to represent multiplication between these?
2x.
Just 2x. And that takes care of all the multiplication for me. Decreased by minus 25. We okay? What are we going to do? Let's not worry about solving this one right now. What is the number it asks us to solve? But because of time, I want to look at this last one. We just took a test and we did great with solving, so I'm not too worried about that. 3 times the quantity of a number in 2 is 45. 3, what am I writing? Times, I'm holding in my head, the quantity. What am I doing for the quantity? What did that tell us to do? It's up there in the top in the printed words. Parentheses. That takes care of our multiplication symbol too. Of a number. What am I writing for a number? And 2.
Plus.
Okay, so why am I adding here? I didn't read anything for add. Yeah, this is addition. Right, if I have 4 of something and 2 of something, I add them together. And then is 45.